All right, welcome everyone to the weekly meeting of the Rotary Club of Jonesboro, the not once, not twice, but thrice District 6150 reigning Club of the Year for however many days that lasts. I'm just going to tell you. We'll see. All right, welcome to Remotary. We're glad that everybody has joined us today. Looks like we have 30 some at our meeting, and that's great. Thank you for your attendance. So we're going to start with a weekly devotional, and I think this is very appropriate to the times that we're living in and the things that we're seeing and doing all over the place. Just remember, the world's changed by your example, not by your opinion. So, and then I wanted to share this. I got this via Rotary Idea Exchange today that I thought was kind of cool. Be the change you want to see in the world, and then the underscore is change the world. And this was a neat little tag that I saw that somebody posted on a Rotary site, that human beings, 100% organic, colors may vary. So there you go. Glad that everybody is here. We'll start with a four-way test as we always do. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. You can recite it to yourself in your own head, so we don't have to do the merrily we go along round, which is always fun via teleconference meetings, but reminding ourselves of the four-way test. Vision of Rotary is together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. That's what we do. That's why we're here. Welcome. Welcome to all of our guests. It looks like there are 34 members and others with us today so far. We appreciate your participation in this 13th episode of Remotary. And thank you again to Marty Allen for the cool name. Upcoming events. This is Thursday. I previously announced this as happening at 3 o'clock, but it's actually 2 o'clock. Dr. Dillahay is going to be on our Rotary District 6150 live to do another live stream of the COVID-19 update. And Dr. Dillahay over the last 2 weeks has been taking a very visible role in the state press conferences that the governor does every day, and so they're turning to her as the expert in epidemiology, and that's really kind of cool, and a feather in the cap of Rotary, because she's ours, so we appreciate having her representing the district and Rotary, and these little live streams that they do it's a lot of good information, and you can participate either during for the district's Facebook or YouTube, right, Sam? Is that the way it is? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's good information. So Thursday at 2, jump on, and they last maybe 30 minutes, so it's pretty cool. Also, relating to the district, our virtual district conference is happening Saturday morning at 11, and there are national speakers that are organized and ready to present and get us all the information that we need to know. And they'll be, I'm assuming, presenting some club awards throughout the conference, however long it lasts. If anybody's, yeah,
Brian. Yes, there'll be presentations. There'll be 2 panel discussions, one on service and one on membership. We're going to have a polio survivor will be speaking during the foundation portion. We have our Rotary International Director, Floyd Lancia, is going to speak briefly, and we have awards where there will be a memorial, and you will see a little memorial video, and a number of our members are being remembered. We lost several of our members this past year. So there will be awards, and probably the the thing I'm most excited about, one of our final speakers is going to be talking about a project that is working to eradicate cervical cancer in women in developing nations, which I did not realize this. Maybe I should have. Cervical cancer is the #1 killer of women in developing countries. Their project is in Haiti, and you will really enjoy that presentation, and it's an exciting project, and actually I think maybe an opportunity for us to get involved in helping eradicate that disease among women.
Okay. Cool.
And then at the end, there'll be a business meeting that'll be on Zoom at the end of the conference. Whole thing's going to take about 3 hours.
All right. Thank you all. Let's move on to, here's a little tidbit that I got from our sister club, the University Rotary Club. This is a fundraiser that they're doing for the Math and Science Backpack Program. You can buy a $20 ticket and choose between meal 1, which is boiled shrimp, or meal 2, which is fried catfish. You can use these tickets anytime during the month of July. So you could buy the tickets, buy as many as you want, then it's a fundraiser for the backpack program. You can use them anytime during the month of July at Cajun or Delta Crawfish or the Cajun Cafe. So if you're interested, there's a couple phone numbers for you to reach out. Either it says purchase tickets, contact your favorite Rotarian or Mary Tucker. My favorite Rotarian in that club happens to be Mary Tucker, so no, it's one call. So, oh wait, don't tell Tamara. Sorry, Joe. But anyway, help them raise some money for the backpack program. That's kind of a cool thing. They're still providing service. That's a great opportunity for us. Now, next week, episode 14 of Remotary is a new beginning. Here's our directors for the second year of a 2-year term. Here's the new directors that will be coming on and joining them to round out the 10 director positions. And then here are the officers for 2020, 2021. That's a lot of 20s in there. But President Gary Higgins will be supported with Treasurer Nancy Elphinstone and Secretary Jennifer Hanna, both in 2-year terms. And then we move on to the President-elect, President nominee, and immediate past president. So next week, changing of the guard, be here or be square. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce, from what I understand, he has a tremendous history of being able to dunk the basketball. I heard this story from Al Poston, so you can judge whether or not it's true or what goes into making it true. So anyway, Slade Mitchell is here with us today. He is the Energy Marketing Administrator for City Water and Light. Slade is responsible for buying and selling power, basically. I guess does that sum it up, maybe, Slade? And he's going to be able to tell us a little bit about what's going on at City Water and Light and what's happening in the future and what makes our utility the best in America. Biased, I'm sure. So Slade, welcome to the Rotary Club of Jonesboro. We're glad you're here.
Hey, Brian, thank you very much for that warm introduction. And I hope Al Poston told you that was a goal that was 7 feet tall. So it does help a little. It's a privilege to be here with you guys today to talk a little bit. We've got some slides here, very high level overview. I want to talk about a couple of things that are near and dear to our heart, and that's how we compare rate-wise to national averages, as well as a bit of a generation update. So this first slide that you're seeing, we'll jump right into the rates. The American Public Power Association each year does a performance indicator survey, and what you're seeing here are the electric rates for all respondents and then those of utilities in similar size to CWL. And you'll see from this slide that CWL's rates are roughly 60% of the national average in the electric area. So good news in that regard. And could we go to the next slide, please? The next slide here shows how we compare our water rates. This is from the American Water Works Association's annual survey. They categorize water rates into 7 different categories. And so what you're seeing here is city water and lights rates in each category against those of the national average. And if you look over on the far right column, you can see that our rates in the water world are about 32 to 42% of what you'd pay were we at a rate at the national average. So good news in the water world as well. And I would ask if we go to the next slide, we can look how we do in wastewater. Again, wastewater, same categories, same source, American Water Works Association. Our wastewater rates, far right column, are about 28 to 44% of the national average, depending on the category that you're looking at. So really good news. We fare very well, our rates versus those of the national average. So very happy. Next slide, if you take the savings that you get from those 3 areas, those 3 utilities, that's about $70 million in savings annually for our customers, paying our rate versus the rate of the national average. So very good news for our customers, and as a customer, that's good news for probably for all of us, those of us that are customers. So our goal here is to keep those rates low, keep our service reliable. We feel like to do that, we need to properly maintain our system. We need to short up when we need to, fix deficiencies when they arise. So starting back a few years and going into the next 10 years, we've identified some projects that we're going to be focusing on. I'll start with the wastewater area. In the last several years, the EPA and ADEQ have heightened their focus on sanitary sewer overflows, or SSOs is the acronym that you hear a lot in the utility world. They want to see deficient wastewater systems short up so that there's no discharges. And every utility struggles with aging infrastructure. We feel like our infrastructure is pretty good relative to lots of other utilities, but certainly we have areas we're going to focus on. There are some utilities, unfortunately, that are dealing with some significant deficiencies, and we want to stay out of that world. Some of you may have heard back in 2015, our friends over in Fort Smith unfortunately had to enter into a consent decree with the EPA where deficiencies in their wastewater system have led to the need to now spend $480 million to upgrade their wastewater system in what was a 12-year period that was recently extended to 17 years. But that's the significant financial burden on their system. If you read, Fort Smith estimates that since 2015, their wastewater rates have had to increase by almost 170%. So we are confident, being proactive as we have been, and the projects that we do now and continue to do. We've been working with ADEQ. They're very pleased with the progress we're making. We're going to be able to keep our wastewater system in good order and get it back to where it needs to be in the areas it needs upgrades, and we'll do that for a fraction of the cost that Fort Smith is doing. So we're very pleased with what's going on in the wastewater world. We also have upgrades to our electric system. We just recently added a 200 MVA transformer to our Hargett substation. That was a significant upgrade to that interconnection point. We have other various projects we'll be doing to continue to shore up the electric system within Jonesboro to maintain a high level of reliability that our customers are accustomed to. And we have future generation needs. The world's changing, and our generation portfolio will be changing in the coming years, and we'll talk more about that here in just a second. But the good news is that we've really not been surprised by any of this. We've been planning. We know this is going to happen over the course of a number of years, and we've been setting aside and have cash reserves that will allow for tens of millions of dollars in savings in the form of reduced interest costs for our customers. So we feel like we're positioned well, and we'll come out the other end in a very good shape relative to other utilities. Our current generation portfolio right now, we own about 250 megawatts of coal. That's over 4 generating units at White Bluff, 2 at White Bluff, and 2 at Independence. We have a 5% ownership in White Bluff 1, White Bluff 2 and Independence 1, and a 15% ownership in Independence 2. We are minority owners in those facilities with Entergy as the majority owner. There's other co-ops and munis that are owners as well. We also have 175 megawatts of local simple cycle combustion gas turbines here in Jonesboro. We have an 80 megawatt power sales contract with Southwestern Power Administration. And good news, exciting news for us, coming soon, we're going to be building a 13.25 megawatt solar project here in Jonesboro. So if we could flip to the next slide, why would we be looking at solar now? Well, those coal facilities I mentioned back in the fall of 2018, Entergy filed a settlement agreement with the Sierra Club and the National Parks Conservation Association to cease to use coal at those facilities. What that'll mean for City Water and Light, that in 2028, when White Bluff ceases to use coal, that'll be a loss of roughly 82 megawatts of capacity for City Water and Light. And then in 2030, when Independence ceases to use coal, that'll be another 168 megawatts of capacity loss for CWL. Again, we knew this was a possibility. We had planned for it, and as we knew it was a possibility, we've been watching different types of generation over the recent years and have noticed that the price of solar has come down significantly. Now, we don't own any solar right now, so adding solar to our generation portfolio is a nice layer of diversity. And solar on its own has a number of different benefits, one of which is price certainty. When you think about generation, there's always a fuel involved. Well, the fuel for solar, of course, is the sun, and we know the cost of the sun, pretty constant, doesn't really go up or down. Whereas a fossil fuel or other generation fuel type, you do see some volatility. Things go up, things come down. It's hard to know sometimes what the future is going to bring. Additionally, solar being an emissions-free, carbon-free energy source, it's a protection against a potential carbon tax that could arise or come out of our legislature at some point. And finally, when you think about the sunny hours the sun's out, that this facility will be generating power, it aligns nicely with our daily summer load profile. Some real good benefits. Now, benefit to building this local, this cuts down on a concept called congestion. In the power world, the price to buy and sell power differs by location. The primary difference of those price differences is this concept called congestion. Without getting too far in the weeds here, when we have a generating facility, say that we're located remotely and we were trying to serve our local customer base here, we would be exposed potentially to a difference in price. In Jonesboro, the price may be one thing, and in, say, Little Rock or somewhere else, it could be a different price. Well, when you locate this solar locally, we know that the price of the power where it's generated is the same as the price our customers would pay. So there's no exposure to a difference in price because of this concept called congestion, or congestion in its most basic terms is trying to serve the customer with the least costly generation source available. So locating that local gives us good, solid predictability on the price. We also plan to site this out in our tech park area, which is where most of our industry is located, a good bit of our industry. This would be an excellent showcase for CWL, for the community, and for the industry in the area. We hope to locate this right next to our tech park substation. When you generate power and it has to travel across the line, there is some losses of energy. When you locate the generation source near a substation, you're going to have minimal line losses, so that's a good thing. And then finally, locating that in the substation out there in the tech park area is right near a good load center, so it can be gobbled up pretty quickly. Our solar facility is going to be called the Jonesboro CWL Solar Park. It's a system totaling 13.25 megawatts. We expect the system to be about a 30-year life, hopefully a little bit longer. It's going to utilize a single-axis tracking system. What that means is the panels will sit on a central axis and will tilt as the sun moves across the sky to optimize the panel angle relative to the sun and add increased energy output. We're also going to utilize a relatively new technology, bifacial panels, which means that there'll be photovoltaic cells on both sides, the direct sunlight side and then the indirect sunlight side. So you're getting the benefit of the direct sun and then the sun that bounces off other surfaces for some added energy output. We'll install roughly 33,000 panels, and we do have space allocated for future battery storage once that technology becomes more economic in our area. Next slide, please. This is actually a picture of what a bifacial panel looks like. You're seeing the underside of a panel, so you can see the photovoltaic cells on that underside, the front side being the sun's kind of coming through there. That central pole there would be kind of the central axis where the panel will tilt as the sun moves across the sky, and optimizing that angle. So it's pretty neat technology. We're excited about that. Next slide, please. Some fun facts about this project. We expect the system to generate an estimated 24,292 megawatt hours during the first year of operation. In Jonesboro, that's enough power to supply roughly 1,600 homes with electricity for the year. This is a zero emission energy generation resource, which is the equivalent of adding roughly 22,430 acres of forest storing carbon for 1 year, or the equivalent of taking 3,711 cars off the road for the year. So pretty exciting facts there, fun facts to share. Next slide, please. We are using a group called Turning Point Energy to develop and construct this project for us. They're a Colorado-based developer. They've got significant experience in the solar space. Their team has experience completing over 1.19 gigawatts across more than 60 projects. They currently have over 900 megawatts in development. We hope to begin construction, plan to begin construction next summer, and expect the facility to be online in December 2021, producing clean energy for Jonesboro. We expect that this project will create roughly 125 jobs in the form of consultants and engineers, construction and related workers. So good for the economy as well. So exciting stuff at a very high level. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Will you lose any jobs from the coal part?
Great question. I think I don't know the answer as far as the long-term plan. I know, so I couldn't answer specifically as to those are mostly Entergy employees. I would imagine Entergy has a plan, but I don't know exactly what that plan is. So I could be happy if you'd like to jot down that email. Whoever's asking the question, be happy to see what I can find out and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Slade, this is Sam Hummelstein. Will those coal plants be able to convert to natural gas or some other energy source and continue to use the facilities to generate electricity?
Sam, that is something I think Entergy would look at. I don't know if that is going to be economic, but that is a possibility that would be looked at, I would assume, by Entergy, yes.
Slade, do we have any people in Jonesboro that have taken it on themselves to do personal solar or solar at their homes?
Brown, we've got a handful, just really just a couple, 2 or 3 customers to my knowledge, unless there's been some new ones, not many. So just a handful at this point. We've had one commercial sized customer that I can think of recently that has installed panels, but not many. I'd say, just a handful of people.
Slade, in Central Arkansas, I know that folks can sell excess energy from their residential installation back to the power company. Is that an option, or will that be an option that you will offer?
I believe that was Sam. Sam, what we have adopted our own net metering policy. Our board has adopted that, and what that allows for is customers can install up to 25 kilowatts or their maximum usage for a 12-month period, and we will essentially credit them up to that amount for the retail rate. If they happen to generate more electricity than they use, they would be compensated at some point at our avoided cost, which is our wholesale cost of energy. For commercial or any other use, we have the limit at 300 kilowatts. So same rules would apply for those type structures.
Great, thank you.
Slade, if I may, and I don't want to put you on the spot, so if it's unfair, just let me know. But we're used to seeing those announcements or those posts on television and things like that about reaching a peak. What does that mean?
Sure. Good question. So in the energy world, a peak is when we hit essentially our max energy demand for a point in time. So in our case, our peak is 303 megawatts, and I don't remember the exact date that peak was set. I believe it was sometime back in 2012, but I could be wrong on that. But that just means we had that level of electric demand for a point in time. Kevin Imbode may be on the call. He may could tell exactly when that peak occurred. Kevin, do you know? You may not have audio, but I believe I could confirm that, Brian, if I'm not right on the time.
Okay, I just didn't know if anybody knew what it meant as far as to the customers. What does it mean when you hit a peak?
Sure, and it's a good question because when we hit that peak, we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared to provide energy at that peak going forward. So it's important sometimes that when we hit that once, the energy grid expects us to be able to provide that going forward. So setting a peak is a pretty important moment in time for a utility.
In your role as the guy who buys and sells power, what does that mean to our customers?
Sure. I think for us, we're always looking to try to keep our rates competitive, keep our service reliable. So in my role, what we're always looking at is generation sources, be it building generation, looking is there an opportunity to buy generation from other sources. And so we're in constant analysis as to what's out there now, what's going to be our next move. We believe the future for us probably as coal starts to go away will be a mix of generation. We think that we'll probably have some combined cycle natural gas. We'll probably have a little more solar, maybe even some wind at some point. Already have some hydropower. So for us, we feel like diversity is key. And in my role, we want to look to diverse energy sources that when they become economic, we want to be ready to capitalize and make moves that are the best for our customers.
Hey, Slade.
Go ahead.
Slade, this is Kevin. I'm sorry, I had to change some settings to get my microphone to work, so I apologize. I had to cheat a little. I was looking at a board report. Our peak of 303 megawatts was set at 4 p.m. on August the 13th. I'm sorry, on August the 3rd of 2011. And to add a little bit of color to what Slade has already said, a lot of times the energy alerts that you see on Channel 8 and maybe some other local media outlets, that is normally generated by the co-ops, I believe, here locally. But all utilities are impacted by what our peak demand is. It impacts the generators that are required to meet that peak demand, and often the generators are staged in order of cost. So the higher the load goes, the higher the cost of the generators that are being used, which impacts our customers' costs. It also impacts transmission because a lot of transmission costs that we pay are based on our demand. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Kevin. Tom Trevathan pointed out in the chat box down here that the turbines helped out with our peak. Now, that brings up another point. Slade, do our turbines, because we generate our own power, does that allow us to sell power and as a benefit to our customers?
Yeah, good question, Brian. So we are a member of MISO, which is our regional transmission organization. We have those units here, which have provided our city with reliability at very important times. In fact, we had that happen here recently. We lost a line north of town, and our local generators were there. We were able to fire those up and keep the system whole. So we're very happy that the board has those in place. What we do every day is offer those units into the power market. So when systems are right and we kind of sit on a seam between two big areas, those units are called on to help keep the electric grid whole. So there are opportunities where we do sell that power into the market, and that helps our customers when we have those opportunities. So they're a great source of reliability. They also are a potential revenue source when the market's conditions are right. So yes, good question.
Okay, John Deacon has chimed in the chat box, and he says you showed city waters and lights rates versus national rates. What about as compared to other utilities across Arkansas or in the region?
And so So I'll start with the region first, and then I'll come to the state. MLGW recently did a survey. I think they had roughly 40 responding utilities. We weren't included in that, but we would have been the lowest rates, and that was utilities in the region, kind of this region of the U.S. As far as utilities in the state, if you look at across the water, wastewater, and electric, you look at them as a whole, we would be the second cheapest, very close to the cheapest, just behind West Memphis. And electric rates, I believe we're the second there too, just behind Conway. But our water and wastewater rates are a little more favorable than Conway. So as a whole, we're very, very competitive in the state, at the very top there.
Good. Anybody else? Questions for our presenter today? Anything in the chat box? Oh, there's one. Do we have a plan to replace sewer lines?
Yes, we do. It's the wastewater projects that I mentioned earlier. Part of those, we're ongoing, always going through the city and evaluating infrastructure. We have various means to do that, be it smoke testing or sonar down through lines, whatever the case. We are going to be, I think Kevin has been the project lead on a couple of large interceptor lines. He's working on one now, and he can probably give more color on that. And then we're going to be doing some other work, I think, in the G Street area, and some shoring up of some of our lift stations. Kevin, anything to add on some of those that you've been more actively involved with?
Just a general statement, I guess. As Slade mentioned earlier, our wastewater infrastructure is in good shape relative to most utilities, but some of our lines were installed, almost 100 years ago, or maybe even 100 years ago. But so we're addressing lines that are in need of upgrades, either from a capacity standpoint and or a condition standpoint, and that's going to involve, as Slade mentioned, spending millions of dollars on our wastewater system to replace some existing lines, and that's being done all across the country. But even with those major capital outlays, we think that our it's going to happen over a pretty long period of time, 10, 15 years, maybe longer. And so it's going to be relatively transparent to our customers. And I think when the dust settles, our rates should be, relatively where they're at now as far as compared to other utilities. I think will be significantly lower than most other wastewater utilities.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for our city water and light professionals? I happen to see that the board chair of City Water and Light is on the call today, and Mr. Pattison, if you got anything you want to add, or just kudos to the City Water and Light employees, that would be appropriate.
Hard to top what we've heard today. Looking ahead is pretty much the hallmark of what CWL does, not just looking at tomorrow, but decades ahead. So thank you, Slade and Kevin.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it.
Rotary does this every Tuesday, and when we know how involved City Water and Light employees are in the community anyway. So, you might think about Tuesdays at lunch, something like that. But thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all that you guys do for the community. It boggles the mind if you look into everything that they do in supporting the community, in recruiting industry and businesses, and support of everything that we do. It just goes on and on and on, even down into fire trucks. So we all save money on our homeowners insurance because of the fire rating. So City Water and Light, kudos. We appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I know that you prefer not to toot your own horn, but consider your horn tooted.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks again for the time.
All right, thank you. Well, we're going to meet again next week. This is episode 14 of Remotary, and I'm calling it A New Beginning. And I guess that's from my Greenleaf days back a long time ago. But Our thought for the day, speaking of solar and sunshine and all that, it's a Helen Keller quote: keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see a shadow. So there we go. Rotarians, it's time to ring the bell one more time. I appreciate your being here and participating on these calls for these 13 weeks. Next week, we do it one more time. In the meantime, tune into that COVID update on Thursday if you can, and the district conference virtually on Saturday morning. That would be great. And let's see, Dr. Dillahay's live stream on Thursday at 2, district conference at 11 on Thursday. And then we are working to get a whole big program ready for next Tuesday that we transition from one administration to the next. So until we meet again, Rotarians.
Brian, thank you on behalf of all of us for your amazing, amazing job this year through the Remotary as well as the in-person job. I think that you deserve a round of applause from everyone. Take your mute off.
That's
Thank you.
crazy. Thank you all so much. I appreciate that.